Oh, good morning. I'm Ursula Ferreira, and this is Magic Potions for Grown Ups. It is February 24th. It's a beautiful sunny morning here in Oakland. I hope that it's beautiful wherever you are. So before we get going, I just want to say that, there may be moments when I invite you to close your eyes or go within for a moment. And if you're listening to this while you're doing something that you need to make sure you pay attention to, of course, be safe and follow what you know is safe for you in the moment. And you can always come back, of course, and listen again and go deeper into those places. I also want to say that this work that I do with the elixirs and all my other work is really grounded in a desire to help people be more present in their lives, not to transcend their lives, but to actually come more deeply into their life and to be supported in the internal way for all the work that we're doing in the world to heal things, to heal racism, to heal misogyny, to heal the ways that we are hurting the earth and hurting ourselves. And, there's many, many things I could list, but I think you understand what I mean, that this is not a transcendental kind of thing. It is actually rooted in the intersection of our humanity and the rest of life. And that's where I'm coming from and wanting you to have access to it, because it is hard work. It's hard work being a human. And we don't have to go it alone in the ways that we've been taught, not just with each other, but actually in our connection to the earth and to her plants and other allies. So please know that. So I'd like you to, or invite you to close your eyes and listen to these two questions and let the answers just float up to you. So the first question is, what feels stuck or stagnant in your life right now? What's not moving that you'd like for it to be different? What feels stuck or stagnant? Or just worn out? Worn out can work too. And then what do you desire more of? What are you longing for? What do you want to receive, bring forth, open up to, be filled with? And if you want, you can write those down, or you can just note them in your heart. Just hold on to those thoughts for now. So, magic potions for grown-ups. Like many little kids, I loved making things like magic potions, and I believed in magic, and I knew in my body that it was real. And then the world did what it did, and there was ways that I still believed in the magic, but as we grow up and sort of have things maybe not totally hammered out of us, but at least kind of tucked away, we don't have the same access to them. But there's still that desire for wonder and play and possibility in life, right? So then in my 20s, I came across flower and gem essences. Now, I'll say quickly here that flower and gem essences are not the same as essential oils. They're, in fact, sort of the opposite end of the herbal healing spectrum. Essential oils are the very concentrated physical components of the plant, the volatile oils that you would get often by steam distilling the plants, but sometimes also by pressing them or extracting it in different ways. So that's essential oils, and they're very, very potent. I mean, one drop of an oil could be equal to, say, like 50 cups of tea of that same plant. Not that you should put the oils in your mouth, but just to give you a sense of how much that little amount actually contains of the potent chemical aspects of the plant. Now, on the other, if you see like the spectrum, right, on the other end are flower and gem essences, and they are the energetic medicine of the plant. much akin to homeopathy, but homeopathy can be not diagnosed, can be, you can diagnose for physical things as well as emotional things, and flower and gem essences are used for healing our emotional body, our spirit. I'm going to give that quick little disclaimer at the beginning, so if anybody was confused about that, that's clear, and you can receive more from that clear place. So I discover these flower and gem essences, and I just love them. I just love them, and I begin to feel passionate about them, and in ways that I didn't fully understand then, but I understand now, because as a child, I always wanted to know, what were the names of those plants and trees? What was that animal? I knew a little more animals because that was more common, but I always wanted to know the names of the things around me, which I think of now sort of as I wanted to know what their soul is, right? Each plant has an overarching kind of soul or spirit that has its own healing medicine and personality. And so these essences became a way for me to reconnect to the waters, to the land, to the moon, the stars, all the good stuff, right? The many other things happen too, but when we take these essences into our body, one way that I understand it is that's we're taking a specific piece of Earth's wisdom into our body and reconnecting that with our own body's wisdom, which is also part of the earth, right? And so begins those places where we've been disconnected, where we are colonized by, this modern Western hierarchical energy. It's begins to release that and be able to connect us to our own direct wisdom, our own direct knowing and connection with the earth. So a little pause here, and welcome to the person who just jumped on. We've only just gotten going. Today, I want all of you to leave with a good understanding of what these essences are, how you could begin to use them for yourself. And there'll be time for questions as we go along or at the end. So definitely let me know if you have any questions as I speak. And for those of you who might want more, I'll have some specific ways that'll be really fun to share with you towards the end. So either way, you're gonna know how you can use these in your life. Because I want you to have that information. We really need to be able to have access to healing that doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money or have to really go out there a lot, right? We need to be able to have direct access to our healing and to the earth. And it's that essence that I want to put in the context of. So these flower and gem essences, these flower and gem allies of ours, right? They are a practical but also really fun and deeply spiritual way of becoming allies and instruments of Earth's wisdom and healing, right? Because they put us into a ongoing conversation with all the beautiful faces of the earth, right? The earth is so huge, and that's amazing. And we can sometimes really need to and want to connect with her really big energy. But sometimes it's helpful to have much more specific pieces that we can come in contact with to do that work of nourishing ourselves, of bringing in guidance, of bringing in deeper alignment to, our being. And we all come from people who were originally directly connected with the earth. Some of us have that connection much more closely in our lineage. Other ones you know, are much further back, but we all have that. And I really feel in my bones that the earth and all of life is asking us to connect with that deep cellular wisdom that is available to us no matter what. And that's part of the healing of our, you know, how we relate to each other, right? If we can become deeply rooted in the earth, we begin to throw off the ways that both we hurt and have been hurt, so that we can become more present with each other. And that we can also be more naturally, like the ways that we want to protect our earth and to heal our earth become easier, because we are living from her wisdom and not from this sort of disconnected place where we might be like, I know that that's important, but it's hard to live in harmony with it. So let's see. So let's go back to what these essences are, how they are made, right? So the official beginning, although I think this medicine is as old as time itself, but the official beginning is there was a British doctor, I think he was a naturopath, named Dr. Bach, and he began experimenting with using these plants, making these essences, and testing out their properties. Like, why would you use them? You know, what would this plant be good for? What would show you that you need it? And then what would it help you transform into? And he ended up creating I think it's a line of 38 essences. And those are the ones you most commonly find out, and if you see them at the grocery store, like Whole Foods, the Bach essences, that help us release old patterns and come deeper into our own truth. Now, how these are made, and hopefully this will help you understand some more, is that you take fresh blossoms of the plant, and of course you always want to be using a plant that you feel really good about. We could have a whole conversation about, like, you know, conversing with plants and making sure that it's okay to pick them and things like that, but I'll leave that for another time. But and in a bowl of spring water, you float those blossoms out under the sun and the moon, depending on what energies you're invoking and how long. And then when you're done, you take those plants out and you fix the signature of the water, right? The flower has put its signature, its healing energy into that water, and you stabilize that with usually brandy. And the water would carry it for a while, but because we want to make these to last a long time, you usually use something like brandy to fix it. You could also use glycerin. And that becomes like a mother essence that you can make other ones from. And you can do the same thing with gems, although there's some gems you wouldn't put directly into the water. I don't tell you that so much that everyone needs to go out and make it for themselves, but it's people, you know, it's a sort of a more mysterious, people haven't heard of it, so I want you to be familiar with how they're made. And what you basically end up doing is taking every day 3 to 7 drops of that essence just into your mouth or in your water as you drink it, in the morning, in the evening, maybe a third time in the middle of the day if you can work that in, if it's easy enough for you, over a period of time, usually at least a couple weeks. And you're working with an intention, right? That essence, or if you're working with multiple essences, are working with an intention. And it works on our emotional body, right? So it can have beneficial physical effects when our emotional reality is healed, but it's not specifically like a tincture where you take it for a physical reason. But it begins to help our emotional body clear and come into deeper alignment with whatever, you know, our soul essence is, our own truth. And so one of the beautiful things about them is that they don't You can't hurt yourself with them, right? If something isn't aligned for you, it simply doesn't have any effect. So it's good to remember. You don't have to worry about it hurting you in any way. And they're safe to use with children. They're safe to use with pets. They're safe to use with the ill or the elderly. They don't interact with any other physical medicines. And of course, you ask people's permission, but they are very, very safe medicine to use. I'm going to just pause there and say, does anybody have any questions before I keep rambling on? Because it's probably, I know for most people, it's new information. Any questions?
I'm good.
Okay. So, another way that I think of how they work is that, right, here's these waters charged with a specific energy, a specific signature. And when we take them into our bodies, which, right, are so much water, primarily water more than anything else, the resonance of those waters, it's like a reflection, a mirror. It's like, hey, you could vibrate this way if you want. If this is aligned, you can come here. And it begins to, it titrates change in a way that is very gentle but effective for our bodies. Because often, when we can want to make changes, but if we're not aware and working with some of our unconscious material, things that we're, don't have really clear in front of us, we can end up self-sabotaging or doing things that are too fast for our whole being, for our nervous system, for our emotional body, for everything, right? But in this way, it's like a loving reminder, like, hey, remember, you want this. This is what feels really good. And it's like your body gets to go, oh yeah, yes, it does feel good. And maybe it kind of goes like and does its other thing, and then it could come back to, oh yeah, that does feel good, until that, has happened enough that you begin to vibrate or align with that deeper way of being, that more grounded, essential way of being that is you, right? They're not going to make you anything that's not you. It's only going to help you be more of who you are. So in that way, you can really relax around using them, because they're helping you step into your deeper being. And I want to talk about, so come back to this titrating, and in the larger picture, these essences are part of a shift, right? This shift from being disconnected humans sort of living on top of Earth to being, these instruments and allies and children of the Earth that we all actually are. And so to think about, in addition to possibly using these essences, like, what are small, meaningful acts, whether they're daily, weekly, monthly, seasonally, that you can begin to incorporate in your life to help you reconnect with the earth energies. Maybe it's something like you put on your calendar when it's the full moon and the new moon, and so that you go out on those nights and you just stand out for 10 minutes, wherever you are, out under the sky, and really like let her energies come into you. Or maybe you begin to mark the seasons in simple ways that are meaningful to you, right? It's really coming from that inner place. So everybody's practices around this might look really different, but it helps us begin to be nourished by whatever season we are in, and draw wisdom from whatever season we are in, instead of trying to be at this constantly on all the time, Western capitalist, super technological thing, right? Like, technology is awesome. We couldn't be having this conversation. We were having it without it. but we don't want it to rule our lives. We want it to be, right, a tool of our lives to be more connected, to be, to make life easier and not more exhausting. So I'd love for you, if you know, to think like, what is something that you could do really simple? Be simple as lighting a candle at a certain time, you know, and just note that for yourself. No, I wanted to tell you a bit about my specific apothecary. We're talking about flower and gem essences in general, but I wanted to share with you how my apothecary came into being. So I had been using flower and gem essences for, I don't know, more than 15 years, I think. And for myself, for my family, for sessions when I would do like body work or healing work with people, and loved it. And then played around some with making some for myself, but never thought that I would be like creating an apothecary like I have now. It wasn't in my imagination. And then in 2015, I had a really amazing opportunity to go on a trip to Western Europe and visit multiple sites that, you know, I would say have kind of been like sacred to humans, as long as probably humans have been coming there. And then some of those humans have different, you know, have different ways of naming that, different, you know, religious lenses that they've gone through, but that the sites have been, you know, sacred to humans, the sacred waters, the sacred lands. And it really, there were transmissions that happened that coalesced something in my being, in my body. And about 9 months after when I came back, which of course is a perfect kind of pregnancy time, Spirit started tapping me on the shoulder. And at that time, this is when the solstice and the summer solstice and the full moon coincided, which apparently is a very sort of a once in a lifetime happening, unless maybe you live 100 years and then it might happen twice. And Spirit said, make an essence with this flower and this gem, and make a essence with this one and this one. So I ended up making 3 essences that were 1 flower and 1 gem. And that became my first apothecary line, the Magdalene Trinity, which are 3 different aspects of the sacred feminine. And what's continued is that spirit conversation. So when you go out, if you went out into the store, herb store, or Whole Foods or something, and you saw some flower essences, most of them are going to be individual flowers or gems. So like I'm looking at I have a sort of shelf behind me, and I can see, you know, there's redwood, and there's rose, and there's calla lily, and there's blackberry, and chamomile, and there are all these individual ones. And you can use more than one together for the same intention. So let's say that first. So if you are picking out individual essences, and you're like, think about what's your intention, what you're working with. And if more than one is helpful to that in yourself, you're like, oh yeah, I see that in myself around this, and I see that in myself. You can use more than one. Usually up to about 5 is considered stable and grounded, for not like overwhelming your system or being too confusing. So that's typically how you find them. There are some formulas, but the way that these that I've been making mine, I say that they're alchemical elixirs, because whatever flowers and gems are going into my different potions, they're being woven all at the same time, essentially, right? They're going all into the same bowl, into the same water. And depending, I'm always listening to what's happening with the sun, what's happening with the moon. Is there some other astrological thing that is significant to the energy? So that's part of my listening as well. And so there's that sum is, the whole, whatever it goes, the whole is greater than the sum. They become this whole that is not just the addition of each single part, but is its own energy that is asking to come through. So, I understand them as these are healing energies asking to come into the world, asking to come in and through in ways that people can use them easily, right? These elixirs. And so that's where my apothecary is different from many of like the single lines. And they're all awesome. It just depends on what attracts you and what energies you're working with. And they're all good. I use mine. I use other ones. I love them all. And a note about using, if you want to combine single essences from those different flower essence brands, is you can make your own little treatment bottle. If you take a clean tincture bottle and add maybe like 2/3 or 3/4 water, and then 1/4 some kind of alcohol. Brandy is the typical one, but it doesn't really matter. It's just that it's alcohol is stabilizing to the water. Or you can add some glycerin, which is also stabilizing. And then you would add 3 to 7 drops of each of the essences that you're wanting to use. And then you close it, what we say, succuss, you hit it against your hand, which potentizes it. And then you have your own little treatment bottle. That's a lot easier to take than taking, like, let's say 4 different individual bottles 2 or 3 times a day. And you can refill that as you want, and I recommend you label it because it's easy to forget. So note about succussing, you can, every time you use any of these, it's a great idea to succuss them because it just potentizes that water. It just brings some energy in. I don't think that they don't work if you don't do it, but I think it's a good little practice so that they are nice and full of energy. I'm going to pause there and say, are there any questions right now?
Yeah, I had to ask a question. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
How you said it's glycerin that you add to it?
So there's different things that you can use to stabilize the water. So you could add either a little bit of glycerin, you could add a little bit of alcohol, you could even do it with a little bit of vinegar, but most people don't necessarily want, like apple cider vinegar, but that would work as well. So this is if you were like
the alcohol.
It just stabilizes the water. What?
What kind of alcohol?
Typically,
like alcohol?
No. Because you're taking this into your mouth. So like brandy is typical, but you could use any. If you had vodka and you wanted to use that, it doesn't really matter. Brandy's just the typical one.
And how much do you use?
If I was gonna make my own little, like if I was making a dosage bottle from several other ones, I'd probably put in like 3/4 of spring water into a tincture bottle and then 1/4 of brandy. Doesn't need a lot. It's just enough to ground it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other questions right now? No? Okay. So let's see. I think that I just want to say that I think these that play, like, right, this here I'm presenting them as magic potions, that really connecting to our sense of play is a form of sacred rebellion, because when we are connected with play, when we're connected with wonder, then we are connected with our vitality, with our creativity, with our life force, with an energy that no one can take away from us, and that really, pisses off the powers that want to squash everything that is alive and vital and beautiful. So, whether it's working with these essences, whether it's doing anything else in your life, I'd really like to invite you to remember that your play is this beautiful form of sacred rebellion, that it's not, that pleasure is not a superfluous or self-serving kind of thing, that pleasure can really connect us to, our own healing, to our own vitality, to, our capacity to move beyond these sort of, very stuck and outmoded ways of being. That I imagine you're here because you want more than that, right? That you want something beyond all the crap that we're dealing with. So in a minute, I want to say, I want to invite, if anybody is wants to ask, well, I've been dealing with XYZ, what might you recommend for that? If there's any kind of those questions, if you'd like to put that, or any other questions that you have. But first, for those who might want to go deeper with my own apothecary, I want to tell you about a couple possibilities. We'll go from there. So the first is that I have started a really fun subscription box. It's a 6-month subscription of magic potions for grown-ups. And every month you get a different elixir and then some kind of complementary magical tool. So last month it was an anointing oil. This month there will be 2 charged crystals coming with the elixir. It really just depends on, what the elixir is. I'm feeling into what is complementary for that. And how I'm choosing each elixir is feeling into what are the energies that we are dealing with overall. What does our collective human body need, and how might we bring that in? So for instance, I'm about to send out my Love Squared elixir, which is a rose quartz and Cecile Brunner rose, which is this beautiful fragrant pink rose essence, along with a rose quartz and a black tourmaline. And that Love Squared is this deep heart tonic, this vibrational heart tonic. It's that unconditional love, nourishment, calm, peace, because, we're dealing with a lot of heartbrokenness, right? With yet another school shooting, yet more craziness with the joke of a president that we have. Just so many things that are hard, that to give ourselves that energy of deep, unconditional, nourishing love, we really need that right now. Because one thing that I know, and then myself, is that when we feel this brokenness in our hearts or in our bodies, right, there's an opportunity to be broken open or to close down. And I say that without judgment, because I've done all of the above at different times. So that we have an opportunity to be broken open to something greater. And that's not necessarily easy, but it is worthwhile. And so this next elixir that's going out is going to be in support of that. Each month you also get a recorded healing transmission talking about the elixirs and the different energies and how you might, use them and bring that into your life, as well as a seasonal teaching that comes about every 6 weeks. So with the solstice and the equinox and all the different fire festivals in between. And there's also a Facebook group that's slowly growing as we get more people, where there's, opportunity to ask questions, to share what's going on, all of that good stuff. So usually to start, that is $65 to begin, and then it's $50 a month for 6 months. But if you wanted to start today, then it's only $20 to start. Plus I'm going to throw in a really yummy anointing oil. There's a choice one is this Lord's Lavender Anointing Oil. Another I'm calling Bridget's Healing Oil, which is St. John's Wort and bay leaf. So that's really fun if you're wanting to be getting magic in the mail every month, or if you're wanting to grow your apothecary, but you don't really know where to start, or you just want to be guided that way. And the second thing that I wanted to offer you as an option is that if you just want to explore the apothecary, that I'm going to be sending you a code for 15% off your order through sometime next week. So yeah, if that calls to you, I'm open to any questions, and then just open any questions about using them in general and how it can be of service.
I just want to say thank you. I never really knew, like I have some of the Bach. I think I got them in Ireland. I think they just looked cool. And I wasn't really sure what I had. Yeah. So I'm going to look those up, that what I already have, and at least use them and experience them. And I did look at your website, and I really do appreciate your website too.
Thank you. Have fun. They're really, that's what I love about them, is that they really, like, you can take them in your hands and begin to use them and have an experience of them in your body. You know, they're very accessible that way. So it's really just this threshold of, what are they? Are they essential oils? No, they're not essential oils.
Right. And thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Anybody else have any other questions? Well, if you have anything that comes up afterwards, you can email me. If we're on Facebook together, you can message me. And I do free consults if you wanted to go deeper into, you know, what might be a good fit for you if you're looking at the different ones that I have. So when I send out this replay, I have a like a quick guide to the apothecary that will be included there, which is helpful because there's quite a few, you know, elixirs that I've made that you can kind of run down and take a look at. So it feels a little less overwhelming if you've wanted to explore this. Great. So I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, and I hope to connect again with you soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you.